I want you to understand something before I tell you this story. I am nobody. I was nobody before it happened, and honestly, I am still nobody now. My name is Rael Voss, and I was a communications officer aboard the UES Whisper, a medical supply frigate that ran aid routes along the outer edges of human space. My job was to sit in a chair, watch a screen full of static, and make sure our cargo manifests reached the right colonies on time. It was boring. Unbelievably, painfully boring. And I loved it, because boring meant safe, and safe meant everyone got to go home. That changed on a Tuesday. I remember it was a Tuesday, because I had just finished complaining to my bunkmate about how Tuesdays felt longer than every other day of the week. He told me I was imagining things. I told him that time was a human invention, and therefore I had every right to be suspicious of it. We laughed. That was the last normal conversation I had before the galaxy turned upside down. I need to give you some background. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for about 400 years by then. We joined the Galactic Concord, met dozens of alien species, and settled into our role. That role, according to everyone else, was the galaxy's helpers, the soft hands. We built hospitals on foreign worlds. We offered refugee aid during conflicts we had no part in. We traded fairly. We smiled a lot. Every species in the Concord had an opinion about humans, and that opinion was always some version of the same thing. Harmless, gentle, a little naive. Good people, but not serious people. I believed it too. I had no reason not to. I was running a routine scan when I saw the signal. It came in on a frequency I had never seen active in my entire career. My console had hundreds of channels, each one labeled and color-coded. But there was one icon in the bottom corner that I had always assumed was dead software. It was black. No label, no description. I had tried clicking it once during my first week on the job, and nothing happened, so I forgot about it. Now it was blinking. I opened the channel. The signal was an SOS, automated, repeating on a loop. It was coming from the Korath Expanse, a region of space claimed by the Valith Dominion. The Valith were a reptilian species known for two things: aggression and more aggression. The Galactic Concord dealt with them the way most bureaucracies deal with dangerous problems. They ignored them and hoped they would behave. The SOS was from a human colony called Eridan's Cradle, population 80,000. Farmers mostly. Families. The message was broken and filled with static, but I could make out enough. Valith warships in orbit. Bombardment has begun. Children are in the shelters. Please, anyone. My hands were shaking. I ran the signal twice to make sure it was real. Then I went to the captain. Captain Daramone was a small woman in her 60s, with gray hair, she kept short, and eyes that always looked like they were solving a math problem no one else could see. She had served in the Terran Navy decades ago, though she never talked about it. I assumed she had been a logistics officer, or something equally unremarkable. She ran a medical frigate now. That told me everything I thought I needed to know about her. I was wrong about her too. When I told her about the signal, she did not react the way I expected. She did not panic. She did not reach for the emergency protocols binder. She went completely still, like someone had pressed a pause button inside her. Then she asked me one question. "Is it broadcasting on Obsidian?" I did not know what that meant. I told her it was the black channel, the one with no label. She nodded slowly, then walked to her quarters without another word. When she came back, she was holding a black metallic card on a chain. She had been wearing it around her neck under her uniform. I had never noticed it. She inserted the card into a slot on the command console. I did not even know that slot existed. A prompt appeared on the screen. It read, "Confirm retransmission on Wake Protocol 7. She confirmed. The SOS was relayed somewhere. Not to Earth. Not to Fleet Command. Not to the Concord. Somewhere I could not trace. My console simply displayed one word: delivered. Then she told me to sit down. What she said next changed everything I understood about my species. She told me that when humanity first entered the galactic stage 400 years ago, our leaders looked at the political landscape and made a decision. Every species that had ever risen to power in the Concord became a target. The strong were challenged. The ambitious were crushed by coalitions before they could reach their peak. The galaxy was a system designed to punish anyone who stood too tall. So humanity chose to stay short. The kindness was real. The hospitals were real. The aid work was real. We genuinely cared about other species. But we also understood something that most civilizations learned too late. Being loved is a form of protection, and being underestimated is a form of armor. Behind 4 centuries of smiles and open hands, humanity had been building, in shipyards hidden inside dead systems, in construction bays buried within hollowed moons, in facilities concealed deep inside the magnetic storms of gas giants, where no scanner could reach. A war fleet of a scale that I could not have imagined if she had given me 1,000 years to try. They called it the Sleeper Armada. Thousands of ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, weapons platforms, things so advanced they did not have equivalents in any galactic military handbook. Each generation of humanity added to it, improved it, expanded it. The ships were maintained by automated systems, guarded by skeleton crews in cryogenic sleep, updated with every new breakthrough in technology. And it was all built for one purpose. The day someone hurt our people and the galaxy's rules were not enough to stop it. I asked her how many ships. She said she did not know. Nobody did. The fleet was designed across centuries by different administrations, each one adding to it in secret. No single person was ever allowed to know the full picture. That way it could never be betrayed entirely. I sat there trying to understand what she was telling me. We were not what they thought. We had never been what they thought. The hours that followed were the longest of my life. The Whisper moved toward the Korath expanse, but we were days away at our best speed. We were a medical frigate with no weapons. All we could do was listen. And what we heard was terrible. More signals from Eridan's cradle. The bombardment had stopped because the Valith had landed ground forces. They were rounding up colonists. I heard voices begging. I heard a child screaming before the transmission cut out. I sat at my console with my fists clenched and tears on my face. Because I could do nothing. I had never felt so useless in my entire life. Then my scanner changed. It started as a small anomaly, a gravitational distortion in a system cataloged as empty. Then another. Then 6 more, then dozens. Across multiple sectors, in places where nothing should exist, objects were moving, massive objects. My scanner could not classify them because their energy signatures were larger than anything in the Concord's database. The software kept throwing errors, like it was trying to measure a mountain with a ruler. Captain Mon stood behind me and watched the readouts. Her hands were shaking. She had known the fleet existed. She had carried the key for years. But knowing a thing and seeing it wake up are 2 very different experiences. I always knew it was real, she whispered, but I never thought I would live to see the day. The galaxy noticed too. The Concorde sensor networks lit up like a fire alarm, thousands of unknown vessels moving through supposedly empty space in perfect formation. No identification codes, no communications that anyone could decrypt. Analysts across every species scrambled to figure out what was happening. Some thought it was an invasion from outside the galaxy. Others thought a rogue artificial intelligence had built itself a navy. Then one junior analyst on an intercepted Concorde channel said the thing that ended the debate. She said the energy signatures were consistent with human reactor designs, scaled up by a factor that she said could not be right, scaled up by a factor of several hundred. No one on that channel said anything for a long time. We reached the Korath expanse and saw the Valith fleet hanging in orbit around Eridan's cradle. 40 warships in battle formation. On the surface below, parts of the colony were burning. Landing craft sat scattered across the farmland like insects feeding on a wound. The Valith commander hailed us and told us to leave, or be destroyed. His voice was bored. We were a medical frigate. We were nothing to him. Captain Mon answered with 4 words. You have 12 minutes. The Valith commander laughed and asked 12 minutes until what? She cut the channel without answering. I watched the clock. Every second felt like a year. I did not know if Mon was bluffing. I did not know if the fleet was even coming to this system. I sat there with my heart hammering so hard I thought my ribs would crack. At minute 11, the stars behind the Valith fleet went dark. Not because the stars disappeared, because something moved in front of them. Something so large it was blocking the light from multiple stars at once. Then, the fleet decloaked. I will try to describe what I saw, but I will fail, because language was not built for this. Hundreds of warships materialized out of nothing. Dreadnoughts the size of cities. carrier ships already launching fighter wings that numbered in the thousands, and at the center of the formation, a command ship so enormous it had its own gravitational pull. I would later learn it was called the Terran Resolve, and it had been sleeping inside a hollowed-out asteroid for 200 years, waiting for exactly this moment. I once saw a cathedral when I was a boy, and thought it was the biggest thing humans could build. I was so very wrong. Humans can build things that make gods feel small. The fleet's first transmission went out on every frequency, in every known language, unencrypted. A calm, measured human voice. This is the Terran Continuity Fleet. You are engaged in hostile action against a human civilian population. You will cease all operations, withdraw your forces from the surface, and surrender your vessels. You have 10 minutes to comply. There will not be an 11th. The Valith commander did not surrender immediately. I will give him that. He was brave or foolish, and in that moment, the two were the same thing. He pulled his 40 ships into a defensive wall and sent a priority call to the Dominion for reinforcements. At minute 3, a single Terran dreadnought fired one shot. Not at a ship, at a Valith weapons platform. The shot was so precise it disabled the entire platform without killing a single crew member aboard. It was a message. We can take you apart piece by piece, and we can do it without ending a single life. At minute 6, a quarter of the Valith captains broke formation and ran. At minute 8, the ground forces on the colony scrambled back to their landing craft in complete chaos. At minute 9, the Valith commander surrendered. Not one human warship fired a killing shot. They won a battle against 40 warships without taking a single life. That was the part that shook me the most. They did not come to destroy. They came to make destruction unnecessary. The aftermath was a political earthquake. The Galactic Concord called an emergency session. Every species demanded answers. The Alar Collective, the elder race that considered itself the galaxy's wise council, was furious. They called the Hidden Fleet an act of deception against the galactic community. Humanity's ambassador, a quiet woman named Sarah Okonkwo, stood before the assembly and did not apologize. She presented the Concord's own records, 17 formal complaints humanity had filed over the past century about Valith aggression toward human settlements. Every single one had been deferred, tabled, or sent to a committee that never met. Then she played the SOS from Eridan's cradle. She played the sound of the child screaming. The chamber went silent. She looked at them all and said something I will never forget. You built a system where the strong take from the weak and the wise look away. We adapted to your system. We simply made plans for the day your rules would fail our children. The Alar representative asked how many ships humanity had. Okonkwo smiled and gave the only answer that mattered. Enough. In the weeks that followed, the Valith Dominion signed a non-aggression pact so fast the ink was practically still wet. 3 smaller empires known for raiding weaker species quietly dissolved their offensive fleets. The Concord reformed its policies faster than it had moved on anything in a century. But what stayed with me was the way aliens looked at humans after that day. On a station I visited during a supply run, a Valith merchant saw me and physically stepped backward. An Alar diplomat who had once spoken to me like I was a child now measured every word with careful respect. I understood why, but I did not enjoy it. I had preferred being the kind ones. I had preferred being underestimated. The whisper returned to its aid routes. Captain Mon retired. The black key was returned to whatever authority held such things. The fleet vanished back into the dark, repositioned to new hiding places that no one would find. I still sit at my console. I still watch the static. Channel Obsidian is quiet again, and I pray every day that it stays that way. Because here is the truth about humanity that the galaxy finally learned. We do not fight because we enjoy it. We do not build weapons because we dream of war. We prepare because we understand something deep in our bones that other species never seem to grasp. Peace is the most precious and most fragile thing in the universe, and the ones who protect it must always be stronger than the ones who would shatter it. The fleet sleeps again, and if the galaxy is wise, it will let it keep sleeping, because next time, they might not stop at a warning shot.